Garage Loot. This is a special bonus episode. When you guys are collecting, thrifting, selling, whatever, talk to people, because sometimes they hear that you're looking for things and they just give them to you. And my brother-in-law was nice enough to do this. He saw some of my episodes, heard what I was doing, and he goes, "Hey, I have an original Game Boy with a bunch of games and a Game Boy Advance with a bunch of games. I owned a Game Boy Color growing up, did not own the original Game Boy. I've never owned a Game Boy Advance. So I was really glad to get these. We're going to talk about these at the end. For making this video, I got some information, actually a lot of my information that I didn't know from the video, a YouTube series done by Metal Jesus Rocks, and he had John Riggs on talking about a Game Boy collector's guide. You guys should totally look it out. I have a link down in the description. I just wanted to give a special shout out. Thanks guys, your information is really helpful. But I want to go over some of the stuff that they gave me, and I'm going to go over some of the titles they got me. I don't have a very big Game Boy collection, so to add these to my collection was awesome. Remember, without Game Boy, I mean, this was portable gaming. We all do it on our cell phones now, and I mean, back in the day, you didn't have that. So the fact that these are around, and as simple as they are, I mean, it's really cool. Game Boy collecting is getting more expensive, but if you're looking into collecting something that, you know, if you're into video games and don't have a lot of cash, Game Boy collecting is actually, might be right up your alley. The first game that I got is Tetris. I had the Game Boy Color version of Tetris as the original. This was a pack-in for the Game Boy. It actually, I mean, and this is a legit pack-in. This game is what made the Game Boy the Game Boy. It really started it off, and as you guys know, Nintendo portables have been, I mean, the most, I mean, really what's keeping them afloat, in my opinion. Cool game. I got Super Mario Land. This was unique because it's Mario on the go. Mario was huge then, huge now, and to have a full Mario game that you could take with you, really cool. By the way, I want to point out, all these games are in amazing shape too. You don't even get, a lot of old games, you get these weird wearing on the labels from people's thumbs and scratching, and kids break games. He also gave me all the cool plastic cases with it, for each game, which was another awesome feature. He also gave me Donkey Kong. There are some special unlockables with the Game Boy Color. My buddy actually owned this, and we used to play it on his, not Game Boy Color, on his Super Game Boy. We used to play this on his Super Game Boy all the time. Donkey Kong helped put Nintendo on the map. Cool game. I got Bomberman. Love the Bomberman series. I've never owned it for Game Boy, owned it for other stuff. Really cool to play on the, you know, play on the go. Bomberman. I got a Star Wars game. I love Star Wars, and you know what? I haven't played this one before, and I'm really excited to check it out. If you guys know anything about it, let me know. I was really excited to get these. Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Gold. I'm not going to, or Pokemon Yellow, I'm sorry. I am not going to talk about these games a lot. This is the reason why I got a Game Boy Color. I had Pokemon Red. I made a Pokemon video especially for these two games. They have a special place in my heart. Links down below. I own Pokemon Yellow already. I'm going to sell this off. I think I can get about 10 to 20 bucks for it. That's what they're kind of going rate for on eBay. I don't need doubles. Remember, when you guys are garage selling or thrifting or anything, if you know it's worth something, get the double. It's easy to part with. I'm going to go really quick through the next 4 games. We've got Defender Joust. It's 4 classic arcade games. If you guys should have heard of those. Sports Illustrated Kids. F1 Race. And Toy Story. I had this game on the Genesis, actually, so I'm actually interested to see how it plays on the Game Boy. He gave me 2 Game Boy Advance games, not the greatest games of all time, but I didn't own a Game Boy Advance. I got a Harry Potter game, and I got NFL Blitz. I used to play NFL Blitz on the N64 all the time, so I'm excited to try this on the game on the Game Boy Advance. So right now we're going to go take a look at the 2 systems, and I'm going to give you a little brief, you know, intro on them. The system I want to talk about is the original Game Boy. This is the system that started it all. You know, this was cool. I mean, this really replaced those stupid Tiger Electronic games. If you've ever played them as a kid, you know what I'm talking about. Most of them are really shoddy. I mean, quality was built. The problem is it had this green screen. Later versions of the Game Boy turned it to black and white, and then Game Boy Color came out. But I just thought this was a cool retro piece to have in my collection. Yeah, this really made portable gaming popular and possible. Again, it used 4 AA batteries. It had decent battery life for, back then. And a lot of kids, I remember kids bringing these out on the playgrounds and stuff. This was cool. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Game Boy Advance. This replaced the Game Boy / Game Boy Color. I know Game Boy and Game Boy Color are 2 different systems, but in my mind they're really the same. This is cool. So it's got the 2 buttons, They started to port some Nintendo games on it, as well as some Super Nintendo games actually on it. Frame rate's kind of bad for the Super Nintendo, but it's got 2 buttons, a D-pad, start, select, and it's got an L and R button. And actually, what's cool is that not only are they compatible with the Game Boy Advance games, this system is actually backwards compatible and compatible with the Game Boy games. What is really cool too is, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but you can actually, with the L and R buttons, change the widescreen or regular screen. I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't make noise. But again, it works really well. Problem with the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color is they weren't backlit, so we really take that for advantage. Later version of the Game Boy Advance is backlit. So, that's the Game Boy Advance. I wanted to thank everybody for watching this channel and supporting it. If you have any experiences with Game Boy Advance, if you're, anything on what things are worth, if you're selling, you want to sell, let me know. Put a comment in that comment section. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. I'm going to be going out again garage sailing this weekend, so I'm really excited for it. Hopefully I can get some really cool stuff to show you guys and help you guys, sell your stuff. Remember, this is evidence. This was my brother-in-law's, basically trash. One man's trash is another man's loot. Hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.